Okay, picture this. It's 1943, and German commandos pull off one of the most audacious special operations of World War II. They literally crash land gliders on a remote mountaintop to rescue Benito Mussolini from what was considered an absolutely inescapable prison. This is the incredible story of Operation Oak. Or at least it's the story we all think we know. And you don't have to take my word for it. Those are Mussolini's own words. He saw the whole thing as something straight out of a storybook, a grand, romantic adventure that, just completely captured the world's imagination. But here's the thing. Behind all the headlines and the legend, there's a hidden truth. That famous raid, the one we all know about, it's not the whole story. Not even close. At the exact same time German commandos were getting ready for that insane assault, a second, totally secret operation was unfolding right alongside it, one that history has almost completely forgotten. So to really get this, we've got to rewind a bit. Let's go back to the summer of 1943. For Italy, things were on the verge of total disaster, and for its dictator, Benito Mussolini, the tide had well and truly turned. Yeah, after some really humiliating defeats in North Africa and Greece, his own fascist Grand Council had finally had enough. On July 24th, they basically voted him out. The king didn't waste any time. He sacked Mussolini and had him arrested. All the while, Italy was secretly trying to switch sides in the war, and you can bet Hitler was absolutely furious. The Führer's response was, well, pretty direct. He gave the exact same order to two competing branches of the military, the Luftwaffe, his air force, and the SS. He was crystal clear: find my friend, my ally, and rescue him. And this, right here, set the stage for a really high-stakes internal rivalry. But first, the Germans had a major problem. They had to actually find him. The new Italian government knew a rescue attempt was coming, so they started this elaborate game of cat and mouse, constantly moving their most valuable prisoner to keep him out of Hitler's grasp. So you've got German intelligence, guys like SS officer Herbert Kappler in Rome, just scrambling, desperately trying to track him. First, Mussolini's on the island of Panza, then he's shipped off to Maddalena, near Sardinia. The Germans were actually just about to launch a raid there when, poof, at the very last minute, he was moved again. They finally tracked him down to this spot, the Hotel Campo Imperatore on Gran Sasso Mountain. And honestly, it seemed like the perfect prison. I mean, it's a hotel perched 3,000 meters up in the mountains. The only way in or out? A single cable car. It's surrounded by cliffs and guarded by 200 troops. A normal assault was just impossible. So as the Luftwaffe's general student is cooking up this incredibly audacious plan to attack the mountain with gliders, a second, much smaller, and almost entirely forgotten operation was quietly being set in motion. Because you gotta wonder, right? Well, the whole world's focus was on Il Duce. What about his family? Turns out his wife Rachele and their two youngest kids, Romano and Anna Maria, were also prisoners. They were being held under guard hundreds of miles away in this old medieval castle. And this is where you really see the wild difference between the two missions. For Mussolini, Hitler sends over 100 elite commandos in this super complex glider assault. For his family, it was more like a surgical strike. Just one SS officer and 6 guys in a single truck. The contrast is just stark. Okay, so let's get into it. September 12th, 1943. Both missions go live at the exact same time. And the logic there was pretty simple. If you strike in 2 places at once, you prevent the Italians from raising a nationwide alarm after you make your first move. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the main operation kicks off. German paratroopers, led by a Major Harald Moors, successfully storm the cable car station at the foot of the mountain. They secure the only conventional way up or down. And at the same time, hundreds of miles away, SS officer Mendel and his 6 men just drive their truck right up to the gates of the castle where Mussolini's family is being held. Their plan was basically pure head-on aggression. 5 minutes later, the riskiest, craziest part of Operation Oak begins. 10 gliders, towed all the way from an airbase near Rome, cut their lines and start this silent, terrifying descent. They crash land on this tiny, uneven patch of ground right next to the hotel, taking the guards completely and utterly by surprise. Back at the castle, Mendel's tiny squad is all about pure shock. They jump out, brandish their automatic weapons, and just force their way into the main entrance. The Italian officer in charge takes one look at these determined SS men and pretty quickly decides it's not worth a fight. He surrenders on the spot. And get this,
Back at Gran Sasso, the entire operation was over in just 10 minutes. 10 minutes! Incredibly, not a single shot was fired. The 200 Italian guards, just stunned by the gliders landing on their doorstep, and with orders not to resist from a general the Germans had captured and brought with them, they just gave up. Mussolini was free.
So, both missions were stunning successes, right? Executed with incredible precision. But in the aftermath, one man very, very skillfully made sure that he, and only he, would get all the credit for the main raid. And that man was SS officer Otto Skorzeny. Now, technically, he was just there for personal protection, but he was a master of propaganda. He basically muscled his way onto the Luftwaffe's raid, brought his own camera crew, made absolutely sure he was in every single photo next to Mussolini, and even risked both their lives by cramming into the tiny rescue plane, all to create his own personal legend. So this daring raid and the powerful myth that was built around it would end up having huge consequences that stretched right to the very end of the war. The rescue let Hitler prop Mussolini up as the head of a puppet state, which just prolonged the brutal war in Italy. Skorzeny became a Nazi celebrity, the most dangerous man in Europe. But in the end, none of it could save Mussolini from his fate. He was captured and executed by partisans in 1945. His wife, Rochelle, and her children, though, the ones saved in that forgotten second mission, they survived the war.
And that really leaves us with a final question, doesn't it? When you look at all the facts, was this celebrated mission a brilliant military feat of unparalleled daring? Or was its greatest, most lasting success the powerful myth it so skillfully created?